Welcome to our conversations with AI leaders in Africa, where Johan Stein and myself look at the transformative power of smart technologies in solving business and social problems. My name is Nzele Ndlovu. Our upcoming event is the Artificial Intelligence Conference. Please visit aiconference.co.za. Welcome to yet another conversation with leaders in the AI space, or in the smart technology era, should I say. And today we are graced by the presence of Dr. Nick Bradshaw. And he's one of the people that I look up to, an inspiration in the field, and I will ask Johan to please introduce Dr. Nick to us. Johan?
Zele, thank you. You know, it's been so busy lately. It felt like we did these recordings twice a week, and now it's been a while. So I don't even know where to find Zoom on my computer anymore. But I'm glad we're here, and I'm glad Nick is joining us. So welcome, everyone. Dr. Nick Bradshaw is the Director of AI Media and of the AI Media Group. He's one of the people doing the most, in my opinion, in our local market to give exposure to the many people doing amazing work in this smart technology field here in our local market and in Africa. He hosts the AI Expo event, which normally takes place in September, and it's really been going from strength to strength, even though the last two had to be virtual, but hopefully next year it will be in person, and we'll definitely talk about that. He also has the trade magazine Synapse, which is an incredible magazine. It's free for download, so it's really worth looking into. And then also the streaming channel, AI TV, where a lot of the talks of the AI Expo is published, but also other interviews. So, Nick, it is really a great honor to have you here. I hope you are doing well.
Thanks, Johan. Thanks, Zanzeli. It is great to connect with you guys. I look up to you in the same way. We're all kind of growing the AI community, not only in South Africa, but you know, across the region. And yeah, it keeps me busy. It keeps me learning new things every day, and there's constant surprises and opportunities as well that come from doing this work. So sometimes it's frustrating. COVID-19 has caused us to slow things down a little bit with some of the things we would have wanted to do, but you know, we've all adapted and made it through last year and this year. So yeah, a lot of thanks to our supporters and community for helping us all, and Zanzili's community as well for getting through this hump of a challenge. But so yeah, looking forward to next year and getting back to normal. Well, whatever noise these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, I'd love to, maybe as a first question, I mean, you came from the UK, settled in South Africa, and I heard you speak about this before, about finding this kind of, I don't know what the word is, but this smart technology community is all over the show. People don't know about it. Other people are not working together, even though some people are doing incredible work. So there was really that gap, and hence the AI Expo and AI Media and all the other things you've been involved in. So maybe as a first question, just is, tell us about this gap you saw, and then obviously venturing out, starting the company and the organization. So just what was that eureka moment, if you would, that kind of drove you in that direction?
Yeah, I guess the start of the journey that led me to the eureka moment was marrying a South African lady. So that's what brought me to South Africa from the UK 10 years ago now. And I got involved in the tech space. Well, I've always been involved in the tech space last 20 years. And I started almost by accident, actually, a Microsoft consulting business through a friend of mine in the UK, wanted to distribute a SharePoint product that took me into the Microsoft domain, and that was great fun for about 5 years. We grew the company, but I've always had this passion to get into this particular field. I guess for the purists, we all know that some of the fundamentals of these technologies have been around for a long time, but it's now this nexus of cheaper computing, accessibility, ease of use, that's allowing what I would call perhaps the layperson to get more involved in this space. So after I exited my last company in 2016, I started trying to join like technical meetups and things like the Deep Learning in Indaba, which was a very successful academic R&D orientated event. But they were kind of talking a language I didn't necessarily understand. I'm more of a kind of service level, application level guy. And so, what's the problem it's solving, and can I buy that solution today? So I realized there wasn't a community that was catering for the business user, the suppliers and the buyers of these technologies, which is what led us to do the work in 2017, which then led to us creating the event in 2018. And I think we started with our first supporter and speaker. I think it was I'm trying to remember the name of it was one of the guys from SAP, actually. And of course, everybody said, "Well, where's the program from last year?" And I said, "Well, there is no program. We've never done this before." So, a lot of people took a big leap of faith, including ourselves at the time. We signed a contract for a venue, I think with like one sponsor, or the promise of one sponsor, nothing more. And it really snowballed from there. And we did the event in 2018. We launched the magazine. We then added in the streaming channel, and started to kind of join up the dots. It's amazing that, Africa's a big place, so is South Africa, but a lot of people are working in very positive silos. I use this word, positive silos. To break through really just requires connecting people together, and I think that's what the job of AI Expo and AI Media and the work that we all do, actually, all three of us on this call, is just really connecting people to people, companies to companies, investors to startup, young engineers to job opportunities. We're signposting people, and there's no end of opportunity. It's just that, as I say, these positive silos exist, and the walls between them are very paper thin, and we can break through them very easily. So, that's a big part of our mission, is to connect people up, really, and connect people up to opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Nick, for that. Obviously, in your space, you engage with both the local and the international experts within the AI space, and you will obviously understand the trends, what's happening as far as the smart technologies are concerned. Maybe with the recent event that you hosted, your AI Expo, maybe if you can share with us some of the highlights and what is happening, what we should look out for as far as this technology is concerned.
Yeah, it's almost hard to answer that in less than 10 minutes, but
yeah.
I think you can see a selection of the vendors behind me from this year. We had Nvidia come on board. They themselves, they're having their GTC conference this week, and if you look at the levels of innovation coming out of the likes of Microsoft, Nvidia, Intel, Amazon, Google, SAP, Oracle, it's mind blowing when you think about what they are actually doing, and actually what they've done in the last 3 to 4 years, almost from zero in many respects. So I think the highlight has just been seeing what's coming out of these companies.
Yeah.
We had a lot more content from the vendors this year. I think that's one of the trends with online events, is you can access content much more easily than you can in a sort of face-to-face environment. I think it was also great that for us personally that we had an economic development agency partner, TIDA, Swanee Economic Development Agency, came on board this year, and I think that's what that's part of what we're trying to do as a catalytic business community, is stimulate the economy, and bring in best practice. I think another feature of what we did this year, we had a representative from the US presidential White House working group on AI. They gave a presentation on national strategy. We had a presentation from the ICT ministry in Brazil. They gave a presentation. We had one from Tunisia. We had one from Kenya. And I think this is, whilst we have the word Africa in our name, we have to act locally, but think globally, and to bring in these other players to mix up the community, to not be afraid to bring in. We've had a trade mission from the Netherlands. We've had trade missions from the Swiss. We've had trade missions from the French, and that it's about mixing it up to the benefit of everybody. We've all got something to learn, and we can learn from people that are close to us, in the adjacent countries, at the north of the continent, east and west, and also outside of the Africa region. So I think those are the three main sort of highlights. Thinking globally, learning about best practice, sharing content and opportunities, and trying to keep up with what these amazing vendors are doing, because just to keep up with one of them in any great detail is a challenge in itself, even for their own employees, actually. So,
but I found maybe a year or two back, I started interviewing a few people, global AI leaders, for my YouTube channel. And then I reached out to them, and obviously I tried to make sure that the initial message made them think it's worth their while. But I was surprised at how many people are really keen to collaborate, even if they are senior people at Google, which is the one recording I had. Others who are much less well-known but are doing incredible work. So I think there is a real sense of collaboration. Nick, so it's interesting to see also that it's almost the willingness of others to want to collaborate and work with you. You wrote a piece, and if I quote the title correctly, I hope I do, about Johannesburg being the AI city of gold. Is that the correct title? Some time back?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. I mean, we over the last 3+ years, I mean, when we started in early 2018, when I started really putting boots on the ground and getting going with it, signing up to contracts and building the community. There were a couple of analyst reports that were talking about AI in Africa, like the startup scene, and basically they were saying, nothing's going on, and yet, with us on the ground, we could see there was hundreds of companies engaging in these technologies, and I think that's the other thing about this region, is that a couple of companies tend to get into the headlines, and then they just sort of stay there, and they're perfectly entitled to be there. They're pioneers in their own right. But what you tend to find is those companies dominate the news, and they typically, one press release gets then recycled on other channels. So you often see the names and the companies repeated. But what we saw is that's like the tip of the iceberg. It's what's going on below the water that you can't see. And I think that's where we started to do the fundamental research. And I think we've got to the point now we've got about 2,000 companies in our database. And we started to put together some trends. So we were looking at, year founded, where they're based, which country, where their headquarters are located. And clearly we've got companies from outside Africa that have a presence here, and they've been around a long time, like Microsoft and IBM, Google, I guess, as well. Those kinds of companies. We started to see, there's some definite trends here. I mean, the country that's got the second most number of AI companies or organizations interested in AI is Tunisia. Now you wouldn't normally think that such a small country could have, like the Belgium of Africa or the Luxembourg of Africa. They're a very small country, but they've adopted this as a national strategy, and and hence the ecosystem is very vibrant. South Africa leads the way. I mean, that's without a shadow of a doubt. And when we broke that down, we started to look at Cape Town, Joburg, Pretoria, KZN, and we found this greatest concentration was within the Gauteng, Tshwane region. So that was when I penned the article. Is this the new AI city of gold or city of AI gold? But yeah, look, I mean, there's lots of reasons why that's naturally the outcome. You might argue that that's not surprising, but it's not until you look at the data, you gather the data, and then you look at it objectively. And then one of the other interesting factors was that we were breaking it down into 5-year chunks, and we've seen a doubling in the last 5 years. Now we've just added another tranche of companies in there. So yeah, there's some very interesting trends, and they're upward trends, which I think is positive for the economy. I think that's positive for job creation. And I'd like to share that information more widely with government, certainly governments here in South Africa, and anyone that's really interested in joining the movement and helping grow this tech ecosystem. I think one of the other challenges we have is because it's a cross-cutting theme. These technologies are impacting every industry segment. So a lot of initiatives are sector focused. So you'll have a big initiative where they're spending money, maybe government spending money on automotive manufacturing or agri or health or education. And AI is not necessarily, it's a component of it, but it's not necessarily the most important component. But I think what we're going to start to see is this deep tech sector, if you want to call it that, is going to become a sector that's going to be a sector in its own right. And we're trying to be at the forefront of that and keep up with it ourselves. It's a bit like being on a moving climbing wall, and it's getting steeper and steeper. It gets harder to hang on to it, but we try and stay on top of it. And we're adding new companies every day, essentially.
I need to ask you this, Dick, before load shedding kicks in on my end. It's very interesting that we speak of before the Industrial Revolution when we're still struggling with the second revolution. Nevertheless, come 2022, what are we expecting? Are we going back to physical, to normal? It seems that we can't operate in the online environment. We're tired of the Zoom fatigue, as they call it. But I think maybe your thoughts on next year. Are we going physical? What's happening with AI Expo?
I mean, we're going to go back to face. I mean, I think a lot of people want that. I mean, not just our event. I think a lot of people just want to go back to some form of normality. I think we have gone through a Stargate or a diode. There's no going back. This new way of working is going to be here forever. I think there's still a place for online events. I think online events have their place when they're targeted to a niche community. I think people are a little bit kind of there's almost too many events to go to. So I think online, it has to be targeted to the right audience, and those audiences are broadly smaller. I mean, I think some big trends that we've obviously seen Facebook talk about the metaverse. Lots of companies now starting to look at virtual worlds or a way in which we can all start to interact virtually. I mean, again, this is nothing new. I mean, Second Life, Lindo, currency. I mean, it's not an area I'm actually much of an expert in, but there are. There are a lot of virtual worlds. A lot of it comes from gaming, where, and that's where NVIDIA came from. That started out with gaming, and now they're evolving into a much bigger company. So I think that we've realised now that interacting virtually may become a new normal, and we're at the beginning of that next journey. So I definitely see that as a trend from next year onwards.
Okay, we look forward to that, Nick, and also the AI Expo for next year. We're keen to see on social media and on the newsletters what's happening, where it is going to be. I agree with the sentiment. I would just want to actually shake hands with people and meet them and have a coffee/scotch with them now and then. So I look forward to the event, to register, and obviously with our networks we'll definitely share it. But it was so great to have you, and I know you're doing amazing work, Nick, and maybe we just go from, and you go from strength to strength with your organization, with the magazine, with the event. A lot of our future and our children's future, especially in our country, depends on us using this technology in smarter ways, which means we have to work together, and therefore we need to know about each other, which I think your organization is a great facilitator for it. So It's been such an honor, and it's a pity it's such a short time. But before the lights go off for Zenzele, yeah, just thank you so much. It was lovely speaking with you.
Guys.
All the very best.
Yeah. And same to you guys. I mean, I know, Zenzele, Johan, you're doing great work in community building, and I look forward to working more closely with you guys into next year as well. So, yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity to talk to you, and appreciate the opportunity to be on ML Africa today as well. Thank you.